You are now tuned in to Go Time Dolphins with Charlie Touche and Kadeem Simmons, the Miami Dolphins podcast that's for the fans and by the fans.
Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's show time. Going all out when it's go time. I ain't wasting no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's show time. Cause it's your time. Lay it on the line when it's go time. Don't waste no time.
I feel like it is one of the best times of the season. It is game week. The Dolphins play football this week. Pre-season is officially underway. And to not talk about that, to talk about everything else with the Dolphins, I am joined by 5 Yard Lee and I being Kadeem Simmons. So 5 Yard Lee, how's it going?
Yeah, pretty good. Excited. It's been a long time since we could say it's game week in any shape or form.
Yeah, the last time we said that was the Jets game, and we was hoping for a miracle to get another game week, and that miracle ended. And so much has happened since then. I don't think you've been on since then, have you?
I don't know.
I don't think you. Don't, if you have, amazing. If you haven't, apology for it taking so long. Give us a quick rundown of your thoughts of the off-season draft, free agency, trades, all the good stuff.
I was happy with the draft. I thought they did good work throughout the draft. I liked Kenneth Grant early. I think I mocked corner to them everywhere. And I think that probably plays into a little bit of the next point, which is free agency. And I think Chris Greer's got a little bit out of his comfort zone because this is the first year that he doesn't really have kind of let's say an upper tier cornerback on the roster. That's pretty much been a staple of Chris Greer, that he's going to go and fill out that position, because I thought that he liked it. Now, either he's deferring that to, hey, what does Coach Weaver want? Or there was just no one that he wanted. I don't know. I liked the trade for Jalen for Minka. I think it's a shame to lose Jonnu Smith, but again, I think if Tua's in your lineup for the entire season, the use of the tight end goes right down anyway. So I don't know if that's as big a loss as it kind of feels at the time, because I think the whole point here is to get this offense back on track. But it did feel like it's a shame, because I like Johnny. I thought he played incredibly well last year, and certainly wouldn't have minded having him on our roster, that's for sure. But I thought Chris Greer did a pretty good job there of Jalen Ramsey wanted out, got him what he wanted. Jonnu Smith wanted to get X amount of money, got him somewhere where he got that, and in return, got a player who is upper tier at his position as well, and a player that you obviously know Chris Greer likes. And I think it says a lot about the organization that they were willing to get Minka to. That Minka was willing to come back. Now, let's see how that plays out in a year or so. But let's take it for what it is. He could have just said no straight away and shut that down. And in the whatever he didn't like the first time, and I think there's multiple reasons that he wanted out the first time, he obviously felt comfortable enough to give it a go. So I think that says a lot. But yeah, I mean, there's not many times you see a player for player trade of that caliber. So yeah, I thought Chris Greer did some pretty good work in the off season. So pretty excited about some of the draft picks as well, which is unusual. I'm usually pretty not low on late round guys. I just think they are very much in the prove it bucket. That's just not because they're not talented, but it's just because the way that usually pans out in the NFL. Like, yeah, for every undrafted free agent, for every Zach Sieler that you get, for every Tyreek Hill that you get in the 5th round, you've got a lot more people that just aren't making it. So it's always a wait and see. But I was really excited about the Ollie Gordon pick, I must say. He's one of my a guy that I really want to see in the preseason.
You just invoked the first topic, or the name of the first topic. Zack Sieler has extended his contract in Miami. I feel like this is a move and a contract which, let's be honest, the majority of the fan base has been demanding it happen for essentially a year now. Definitely, after the season, Zack Sieler, I don't think it's hyperbole to say probably the most underrated player in the league. His play, his stats, what doesn't show up on the stat sheet. He's enough. Not enough people are talking about what Zack Sieler does in the league. So he has a brand new deal, and nope, because
It's the
people don't
extension,
like
isn't it?
extension. Apologies, yeah. I thought the Dolphins would tell us what that extension actually was, but it is a 3-year, 67, 3-year, 67.75 million extension, 44 million in guarantees. What do you make of the deal, Lee?
It's amazing, really, isn't it? Because, like you said, he feels still underrated. I bet there's a lot of fans of other teams that, without Hard Knocks, wouldn't know who he was at all. And that was really the relationship between him and Christian Wilkins, not for his play on the field, which is a travesty, really, because he deserves every accolade. He's, like you say, criminally underrated. But again, this also feels like a more than fair deal. Like, I've got to be honest, I don't think I've seen anyone so far. Now, granted, I saw the news when I woke up about 6:30 this morning. I've been at work most of the day. I haven't seen too many people complaining about the number. And with most players and most extensions, someone's unhappy about the number. But this seems to be universally liked, and that is a pleasant surprise. And I think it just goes to show the respect and the love that people have for Zack Sieler and the work that he does. The Dolphins fans appreciate him.
I think also, like as many people have pointed out, this deal, or I should say, Zack Sieler probably would have had every right to not show up to camp or not show up to something this off season, but there was no holdout. There was no drama. Zack Sieler turned up to work every single day, did what he needed to do. I can imagine because he knew this deal was coming. It's different if there's no talks ongoing whatsoever. And obviously, Drew Rosenhaus, his agent, the Dolphins have so many of Drew's players that, he would have known, he being Zack Sieler, whether a deal was going to get done. Courtesy of Joe Shad, Christian Wilkins' games with the Dolphins: 81 games, 20 and a half sacks, 355 tackles, 43 tackles for loss, 84 pressures, 50 quarterback hits, 4 forced fumbles, 6 fumble recoveries, 1 interception. Zack Sieler, 85 games, 30 sacks, 306 tackles, 49 tackles for loss, 90 pressures, 69 QB hits, 5 forced fumbles, 5 fumble recoveries, 2 interceptions. That's just that Christian Wilkins left the Dolphins and got paid a lot of money, and unfortunately for him, got injured, hadn't really justified that contract, and is now a free agent. But Zack Sieler, when the Dolphins let Christian Wilkins go and retain Zack Sieler, and again that contract was criminally undervalued. Sieler's just been an absolute star, an absolute stud, and to think that we took him from the Ravens practice squad, fully deserved. Everything that Zack Sieler gets and has continued to get since being a Miami Dolphin.
Yeah, I think I'm really glad you picked up on something there. That there is multiple, there's many ways to skin a cat. And this is a perfect example of it. We see players holding out all over the place to get what they want. And players are entitled to do that. But there is also other ways to go about it, and that's to show up and do your work. And I also thought Christian Wilkins handled it well the year before last when he was showing up and doing workouts but not participating in team drills, for instance. I think there's ways to do it where you're showing, cool, we're getting this done, but at the same time, I don't want to put myself at risk. Or you just show up and you're doing your work, and that that extension's going to come. Like you say, I'm sure he had an inclination that it was going to get done, but until you put pen to paper, there's still a risk. So there is a lot of faith on behalf of the player there. And something else I know we're going to talk about is you see plenty of players that have been hurt so far in camp. It's actually been one of those. Does that extension come? he was putting that risk, was firmly on his side. But yeah, I think he's definitely been rewarded for being a consummate professional.
Yeah, totally agree. Again, you mentioned another topic, and I think it's interesting because at the time of recording, we don't know what this extension frees up for the Dolphins. But the Dolphins, again, I don't think anyone can argue they need help in multiple positions. And most of that it's essentially down to injuries. So we know that friend of the podcast, Austin Jackson, is, I think it's fair to say, a doubt right now for the season opener. Against the Colts, he picked up an injury, and it's a shame because he's an injury-prone player. I think most Dolphin fans, when they heard the news that Austin Jackson was injured, was like, "Of course he is. It's going to happen at some point." Coach said that someone rolled on his leg, so this isn't a soft tissue injury. It's an injury that's come from the practices the Dolphins have had so far this offseason, but these practices have has taken out so many players. We know we've lost Kader Kohu for the season. There was a very scary moment, I believe it was on Sunday morning, where Alec Ingold in practice, essentially something happened and he's lying motionless on the floor. To think Tyreek Hill quickly called for trainers, the whole team were down taking a knee, which is never ever a good sign. I guess on a somewhat lighter note, he was able to leave the field walking, and they've been placed in the concussion protocol. But yeah, that sounded scary. The Dolphins' defense in general just sounds like it's beat up. And Liam Eichenberg's injured. The Dolphins just signed Jermaine Ifedi because Austin Jackson is out. But I guess my question to you is, for a team that has been labelled soft for a number of years, and we talk about, or we hear about this new culture and, guys going hard in practice and all that kind of stuff. Not a loaded question per se, but how much of this new mentality and this new hardness has basically had so many players out injured?
I don't know. It's a tricky question, isn't it? Really, because if the Dolphins turn up to week 1 and look soft again, fan base will be up in arms. If they get there and they're unhealthy, they're going to be up in arms. So I don't know. I don't know how the Dolphins really come out of this on top. I think they're trying to do something different, and they're trying to address it in camp, which makes sense. And throughout the entire off season, I think they're getting bitten for it now. But I would say if you're playing the kind of plus minus game a little bit, you probably have the best chance to fill those holes now and heading towards training camp when players are going to be becoming available. Good players will be, because their jobs are being taken by younger, cheaper players. But once you get into the season, a lot of those players are going to have been picked up by teams in similar situations. So maybe if this is going to happen, you'd rather it happen now. Now, obviously, we don't want it to happen at all, but I don't think that's realistic either. I think injuries are going to happen. We know that. But maybe this route gives you the best opportunity to then plug those holes. You mentioned there that we don't know how much Zack Sieler's contract could have possibly freed up. We know the Dolphins freed up about $11 million the week before. Chris Greer's got the capital to go out and spend if he wants it. I still think that he will go corner shopping at some point. This just seems too out of character to go into the season with the corners that he's got on the roster right now. Now, whether that's he's waiting for a Russell Douglas or Asante Samuel, or he's going shopping on another roster, I don't know. But I do feel like something will happen there. But yeah, it's interesting to see if you start filling some of those holes with players that become available over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I just want to add, because there might be someone in the comments, calling me an idiot for insinuating that the Dolphins, newfound culture and all that kind of stuff is the reason for these injuries. It's a joke. I send that to Lee, just because kind of like a because it's, let's be honest, the Dolphins are an injury-prone team. It might have been Chris Kaufman, it might have been Reason, it probably was Chris, to be fair. The Dolphins, like, injuries in the NFL are going to happen. You know, there's nothing you can do about that. But what doesn't help is when you're going to get injuries and Chris Greer signing injury-prone players. So when the injury-prone players get injured, like an Austin Jackson, it only adds to an injury list that you're going to get. So yeah, listen, I'm in no way saying that the Dolphins essentially turned the culture around and being more, getting more dog in them. It has anything to do with the injuries. That's not what I'm saying at all. It was just a joke. Let me make that crystal clear. But yeah, the injury bug has hit the Dolphins and hit them hard. You mentioned the 11 mil that's been freed up with the Minka, with reworking his deal. You're going to now free up some more money with this contract as well, the Sieler extension. The Dolphins need to go and get help somewhere. Shout out to Charlie. He said in our group that if the Dolphins invested more heavily in the offensive line during the draft, then you can probably mitigate or allow for a Austin Jackson to get injured, Liam Eichenberg to get injured. Instead, you're having to go shopping around guys who are free agents right now, and the chances are they aren't that good if you're a free agent right now. But yeah, this secondary, you mentioned Chris Greer doesn't have a high-profile name corner, for lack of a better phrase, I guess. Not to put you on the spot, but is there anyone you can think of bringing in at this point? And not to kind of take one away from you, Greg Newsome, the Browns corner, who sounds like a deal could be done if someone makes the Browns the right offer, which right now looks like the Dolphins might need to make that offer. But is there anyone off the top of your head who you're like, hey, Miami, go and get this guy? And is that guy essentially Asante Samuel Jr. or Russell Douglas?
Yeah, I mean, that has to be the easiest route, doesn't it? Because they're free agents. Personal preference is Asante Samuel, just because there's the potential for it to be a long-term signing as well. With his age, I think he's 25.
I believe so.
Whereas
Yeah,
Douglas will be, I think, 31 at the start of the season. So I think out of the two, that would be my preference. I do think, and I haven't dug deeper on this, but I would start looking at teams that took corners in the first couple of rounds and seeing if someone is going to shake loose somewhere else where a cheaper guy can take someone's job and you can make a trade for someone. It's difficult because we know Chris Greer doesn't like to kind of overpay when it comes to making trades, and everybody is aware that Dolphins have lost a couple of corners in training camp and were probably weak there to start with. So I don't see him getting. I think it becomes more difficult to get great value via a trade. So probably free agency is the way to go, or you wait and see if someone does become a surprise cut. There's surprise cuts every year. Happens all the time. But I mean, just for Charlie, I think we should definitely sign Xavier Howard because I know his head would explode. So
what about just essentially using what you have? You have a bunch of young guys on the roster. It's like, hey, now's your chance. Let's be completely honest. Coach said that Cam Smith is day-to-day, and that's the way possible. Day-to-day for what? Like, the Cam Smith experience and has clearly ended now. He's someone who, if he gets cut this offseason, no one's going to be surprised. I say it's a shame. It's a fact of life that his second round pick just hasn't worked out. But yeah, it sounds like the Dolphins, at the very least, have a bunch of guys in the building who, for now, they trust. Obviously, it's going to be very different. It's one thing when you're up against Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but for the most part, people aren't going 100% because it's practice. Let's be completely honest. Now you've got these, what's the word I'm looking for, Lee? Joint practices. Now you've got the joint practices. it's gonna. Although it's our first joint practice against the Chicago Bears, that's going to tell you nothing because you're up against Justin.
Well,
okay, Caleb Williams. Sorry, like okay, good for you.
but it is. If you start getting carved up in the secondary by Caleb Williams, with the way his camp looks like it's going so far. Now, granted, we're only seeing the bad stuff. If you're a Bears fan, you might know differently. It'd be like seeing people react to Tua throwing his first interception yesterday, knowing that he's really gone 10 practices without an interception. And, I think Omar Kelly said, looking at the video afterwards, it actually looked like pass interference on the defender on the inside. Not that it matters, it's a training camp interception. But when people only see the one thing in isolation, so maybe we're being unfair to Caleb Williams. But I think it will be telling to see a couple of days. Like I say, if you start getting carved up in the secondary, I imagine you start seeing Chris Greer make a move pretty quickly. But that's why you have these joint practices. I've always been a huge fan of joint practices, and I'm glad the Dolphins were one of the teams who kind of got into it early and often, as opposed to other teams that only does it once and maybe for the third preseason game to kind of avoid starters playing. But let's be honest, if you don't do that, the starters in the secondary might not see the field in preseason at all. They might only see it in the third game. Now, by this point, you've had weeks to try and fix a problem that you were kind of unaware of because you didn't see it against anyone but yourself. I think that makes these super important as a kind of measuring stick, even if it is cool. Okay, you were good against Caleb Williams, and from what we saw, we don't think that means a lot, but that still is a barometer. Do you know what I mean? We've mentioned it before with Liam Eichenberg. I know people aren't happy when Liam Eichenberg gets retained, and my opinion is he's always going to be probably on the roster because, it's kind of like the bar to cross. If you want to break into the Dolphins O-line, be more useful to the Dolphins coaching staff than Liam Eichenberg is.
Yeah,
because he does a bit of everything, and I think that's what you're trying to see in these joint practices is. Do we have a problem? Okay, step one will be passing Caleb Williams over a couple. What is it? 2 days of practice, I think, or 3 days?
I believe so. One.
Yeah, and because he's probably not going to play in the game either. So it's the practice that's important, not the game.
Yeah, I was going to say I was going to talk more about joint practices, but I feel like that'd be a really good Patreon episode to kind of see the way the league is developing with that and stuff like that. So if you want to hear our thoughts on joint practices and preseason in general, head on over to our Patreon /GoTimeDolphins, which basically means that our Patreon episode, which I've suggested to 5 Yard Lee, I guess is going to be our overtime segment. So Lee, tell everyone where they can find you before we jump into overtime.
At the moment, you can find me at 5 Yard Lee on Twitter and the Dolphin UK podcast. There is some news coming about Dolphin UK podcast soon. I'm hoping to have a little bit more detail about that this week. So hopefully we should be able to start dropping episodes again pretty soon.
I was going to say you'll find out first here, but you won't. You'll find out first over where Lee just told you. But yeah, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. The outro will be roughly 30 seconds long. I want to see you all over there as we discuss a potential Dolphins until then, be back in a sec. Peace.
Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's showtime. Going all out when it's go time. I ain't wasting no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's showtime. Cause it's your time. Lay it on the line when it's go time. Don't waste no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's showtime. Going all out when it's go time. I ain't wasting no time.
I always forget the outro when Charlie's not here. It's absolutely awful, so I apologize for that. But
dude, I do the same thing whenever I get to the end of the podcast. I'm like, I think there's a whole lot of podcasts that I say like, see you next week. And there's a podcast, no one can see me at all. Yeah. Your show's live, but our show's not. So,
well, this isn't live. Another one when we'll be live next. To be honest, I was thinking to go live on Sunday for the Chicago Bears game, but also it's at 6 p.m. UK time, which means I don't need to go to the Hippodrome. Like, see, this is perfect. I'm like, oh, Hannah, there's football this weekend. Dolphins are playing at 6, but I'm going to stay at home. I'm going to be a good husband. I'm going to stay at home. So I'll do that. So, not too long on this. It's a rumor, and I think this rumor stems from nothing but just people chatting. But Tyreek Hill to the Washington Commanders, Terry McLaurin in return. Is that a trade you would entertain? If you're the Dolphins, and why? I guess why not?
I don't know if you do if you're the Dolphins. I think as fans, though, I think we do. I put it in the group the other day before we saw a tweet that was out overnight about it. I don't think we should do it as the Dolphins, but I think it's an interesting conversation to have. You can potentially get younger with a very good wide receiver. I mean, generally the thinking is that Tyreek is going to be around for what, a year, 2 more years max. So if that's the case, would you rather have a younger guy who's also a star at the position under contract for longer? Don't know. It's just an interesting one. I don't know if it necessarily makes you better. Don't think it does. I think it comes with the inherent risk of, does he fit into the offense and get along the way in the offense the way that Tyreek does. And I think I would take the proven commodity over the risk. But that's just my opinion.
What's interesting? So you said you get younger at a position, and something that Charlie said, which I'm sure he doesn't mind me saying, would he'd be open to trading Waddle for McLaurin. Both get to keep number 17. Tyreek Hill is 31, just turned 31 in March, I think it is. Terry McLaurin's 29 and turns 30 in September.
Okay, then I was completely wrong. I was literally just looking that up. I thought he was younger than that.
That's what I
see.
thought.
Again, that just leans me towards sticking with Tyreek. I just think it's an interesting conversation to have. But
I think, yeah, him not being that much, like he's a year younger than Tyreek Hill, which to me is insane. I thought he was around Jalen Waddle's age. Waddle's 26, and now again, it's once that speed goes with both Hill and Waddle, you aren't really going to have much left. But while that speed is still there, and you would think for Waddle, he's got a good few years left with that speed. I'm not trading away Jalen Waddle to get older at receiver with Terry McLaurin. I'm not doing that. But I'm also not trading away Tyreek Hill to get 1 year younger. Like, I'm going to ride out with Tyreek Hill until, the wheels completely fall off, be it play-wise or off-the-field issues. And it sounds like a good set of younger receivers coming through. You've got both the Washingtons, and there's a few guys, it sounds like, is Armstrong one of them? Who sounds like he could be something. I wouldn't have traded Hill for Scary Terry anyway, but the fact that he's turned 30 in a little over a month, to me, it's an absolute. Don't even pick up the phone if Washington call, unless they're going to give us a insane offer, and that insane offer is like, we'll give you a first something and Terry McLaurin for Tyreek Hill. It's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. Like, yes, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think 29. That surprised me. Also, I think Tyreek's done everything you've wanted him to do. I know he had a down year last year, but he was dealing with the injury. But let's be honest, right? He's been stellar most of the time. He's been a Dolphin. He fits the offense perfectly. Okay, maybe the offense is slightly tailored towards him, but yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued by the young guys the Dolphins have on their roster as well. I'm intrigued by Westbrook Akine as well, to see how he kind of develops into the system. I know someone who was at camp the other day tweeted that he wasn't having the greatest camp, but I do also think it's quite a learning curve to be in this system. I don't think it's a case of you turn up and you just fit in, with the exception of Tyreek Hill. But that's also why Tyreek Hill is going to be conversation for the Hall of Fame and stuff. His numbers speak for themselves. So yeah, it is interesting. And then obviously, you don't have any problems with Waddle because that chemistry is already there as well. So yeah, I'm not worried about Keeney, but I'm definitely interested to see how he gets on. I was excited about the signing when they made that in the off season. Also, another guy that I know we differed on in our group chat, but I'm excited to see D. Eskridge play as well.
Yeah,
I think he's a great fit. I wanted to see him a little bit more last year before he got a knock as well, and I know he was carted off the field with cramps the other day, which is not a great sign. But listen to Tyreek or learn from Tyreek. Stay hydrated in Miami. It's hot down there.
Stay hydrated and turn up on time. I'm just looking like I say it's insane. McLaurin was drafted 2019, like a year before Tua. I just didn't expect him to be 29 because Tua's 27 and Tua's just turned 27. Like, do you know what I mean? There's like a whole 3-year difference between them, and again.
Yeah, see, that's the difference, isn't it? Is when Terry came out of the draft, like he's only a year younger than Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill was taken in 2016. Like that's what it is. It's just the exposure to him. But yeah, it definitely caught me out.
Yeah. No, listen. Again, let us know in the comments whether you'd make that trade. Again, like I said, I don't know if the Terry McLaurin age makes a difference. I'm definitely going to message Charlie and be like, hey, now, like, does this information change your opinion on the trade? But like I said, let me know in the comments, and be amazing to see some of you over on Patreon as myself and Lee talk about joint practices. Definitely until the next time, we shall see you soon. Peace.
Oopsie.